Chaser of Darkness. Author's note. I swear this storyline was confusing as hell when I first did it. I replayed it a couple more times, but it wasn't until I saw the Maple C translation that it finally began to make sense. This is definitely one of the weaker GMS translations out there. On Savage Terminal, in Tulin City, a Dracus regulator sergeant warned a group of biter thugs to vacate from the public facilities that they were illegally occupying. Kuden, the leader of the biters, refused to comply and ordered his goons to throw a party. Suddenly, the lights went out and Dracus agents arrived to wipe out the biters. Kuden was the only one who managed to escape, but suddenly, Kane arrived to intercept him. After a skirmish, Kane returned to the other agent's location. Just then, he was contacted by Luska, the boss of the Dracus. She congratulated him on his work and invited him to dinner. 1 year later, Kane had a psychiatric appointment with Dr. Y. Dr. Y asked him to rate his condition on a scale from 1 to 10, to which Kane replied with an 8. When asked how he felt about his work, Kane answered that though he didn't enjoy it, he didn't hate it enough to quit, admitting that there were moments that he sometimes did enjoy. Dr. Y then asked if Kane had any flashbacks from before he had begun his time with the Dracus. Reluctantly, Kane answered that he did. Just then, a signal beeped to summon Kane. Dr. Y told Kane that he didn't want to keep him from his work, adding that vestigial memories were a common occurrence amongst members. Author's note. The Dracus take away the memories of their members and force them to work in order to get them back. Dracus agents also get a choker placed on them that tracks their location in order to stop them from deserting. Despite it feeling like every class loses their memories, it's really only Aran, Xenon, Kane, Ark, and Adele, unless you count everyone in the universe when it comes to Shade. After leaving, Kane met with a regulator sergeant who told him that several criminals had escaped from detention and ordered him to recapture them. Outside, Kane met with a regulator who explained that he had been given instructions to give Kane a malice stone. Kane crushed the malice stone in his hand, flooding him with familiar power, which he thought was strange, since it was his first time using one. The regulator explained that malice had three main characteristics: enhancing one's physical traits, bonding them to darkness, and loading their weapon. With that, Kane subdued the biters in the area, thus granting him 10 points by the company. Just then, two Dracus agents, Lilin and Vias, arrived to rendezvous with Kane. The regulator then tasked him with stopping several of the fugitives who were headed for the rooftop. Lilin, or is it Illin? That looks like Illin. Illin and Vias told Kane they would finish up on the ground so that he could go on ahead. On the rooftop, Kane was surprised to see two chameleon anima children, Romina and Royce. At the sight of the siblings, he had a flashback of his younger self hugging an older girl on the beach. Kane then realized that he couldn't bring himself to complete his mission. Author's note. This scene ends here because Kane loses his memory of what happens next, but he basically just hides them in his locker. The next day, Kane sat at the company bar where the regulator sergeant asked him how his dinner with the boss had gone. Just then, Ilan and Vias arrived and asked what kind of food he had. Kane explained that it had been a rare dish from out of town, though he didn't remember how it tasted, as he couldn't even recall taking a bite due to the awkward tension. He then realized that Luska hadn't had any particular business to discuss with him, and wondered why she had called him in the first place. Just then, a group of new Dracus agents arrived, and a regulator explained to them that because they had defaulted on their debts, the company had extracted their memories as collateral until their contracts were fulfilled by serving as agents. A mission then came in for Kane, ordering him to subdue the new members as part of their initiation process, with a reward of 20 points. After Kane defeated the new members, another member named Tirag arrived to goad Kane about why he worked so hard when he could settle into the company like himself. Kane told Tireg that he planned on leaving the Dracus, but Tireg mocked Kane's belief that he could leave and pointed out that if the company was ruthless enough to steal its members' memories in order to turn them into living weapons, then there was no way that they would ever let those weapons go. After Tireg left, Kane went to pick up his gear from his locker, where he was surprised to see the two chameleon siblings hiding inside. Kane wondered how the girl was wearing his uniform when he was sure that he had been wearing it the day before. Just then, the regulator sergeant arrived to give him his next assignment. As they headed outside, Kane wondered whether he ought to report the siblings, but once again, he found that he couldn't bring himself to do it. Outside, he regrouped with the other agents, and the regulator sergeant explained that their objective was to capture the two anima children, adding that he had given them clearance to question the citizens. Kane was surprised by their mission, but Ilan reminded him of their briefing earlier, which had explained how the children had vanished off the roof while Kane had been chasing them the night before. Bias wondered why so many agents were being mobilized for a mission when the children were simple pickpockets, but the regulator sergeant explained that the siblings had allegedly stolen an important item from the base, and that the children had allowed themselves to be arrested in order to infiltrate the base in the first place. Knowing that the siblings weren't in the city, Kane pretended to interrogate the biters by beating the information out of them. He then encountered a suspicious crow and decided to interrogate him. Author's note: the crow is the same species as Corbo and Detective Rave from Savage Terminal. However, the crow revealed that he had a malice stone and crushed it, allowing him to escape. Kane then found a notebook that the crow had dropped, which contained detailed notes on malice stones. The notes indicated that malice stones were produced within the Dracus headquarters, and that Dr. Y had made a reference to the original. Just then, an old woman named Amos arrived and told Kane that she would treat his injuries, calling it a gesture of thanks to the Dracus for protecting the town. Back at her shop, Amos told Kane that she knew he was looking for the chameleon siblings. She explained that the siblings were thieves for hire and that they occasionally worked with the biters in exchange for food. Amos asked Kane to go easy on them, as they were just hungry orphans. Just then, the regulator sergeant arrived and asked Kane why he had left his designated search zone. Thinking quickly, Kane showed him the notebook and explained that he had been chasing a lead. The sergeant then ordered Kane to return to headquarters. When Kane returned, he found Tireg rummaging around his locker. Tireg chastised Kane for keeping perishable food inside his locker, and when Kane looked inside and found a half-eaten dumpling, he realized that the chameleon siblings had likely been eating there before they had escaped. Tireg then told Kane that he wanted to go over something, explaining that mainland Grandis was in the middle of a war. He then insinuated that they might be able to seize control of the Dracus and use the malice stones to profit off the conflict. However, Kane cut him off and told him to stop running his mouth, making it clear that he was uninterested in Tireg's plan to overthrow Luska. Irritated, Tireg told Kane that the boss wanted to see him after he finished being treated. Kane then told Tireg that he had already turned in the notebook in case that was what Tireg had been rummaging through his locker for. An angry Tireg told Kane that if he was planning to get on Luska's good side in order to leave the company, it wouldn't work, adding that there was a good chance that she might have taken their memories any number of times after their initial after their initial memory wipe, likening them to her personal puppet show. After Tireg stormed off, Kane went to see Luska in her suite, where she interrogated him about the children, as he was the last one who had seen them on the rooftop the night before. Kane reported that he had handed them over to the other Dracus, which was likely when they had escaped. She asked if he knew what they had stolen, but Kane told her that he knew nothing about it. Regarding the notebook, Kane explained that he had chased a suspicious crow using malice, but that he didn't know what was in the notebook that the crow had dropped. Just then, a regulator arrived to report a new development. Leska dismissed Kane, but he stayed nevertheless in order to ask why she had invited him to dinner the other night. Leska told him that it hadn't been for any particular reason, but after hesitating, she told him that she had happened to take an interest in his story. She then asked Kane if he still planned on going home after his contract ended, which Kane confirmed, explaining that he was looking for something. The boss simply told him that she hoped that he found the person in his memories. Kane then went to his locker, where he found the chameleon siblings hiding once again. He asked them if he had been the one who was hiding them the night before, but suddenly he had an epiphany about what Leska had said to him about finding the person in his memories. He realized that though he had told the Dracus about where his memories had taken place, he had never told anyone about the person in them. He began growing suspicious of Leska and wondered what else she knew about his memories. He also realized that the Dracus had likely taken his memories of the night before, which was why he couldn't remember any of it. Kane then told the siblings that he knew that they had returned for a purpose and struck a deal with them. In exchange for them disabling security, he offered to help them with their mission. Romina asked why he needed their help, as Dracus agents already knew how to hide in the shadows. Kane showed them his choker and explained that it would trigger an alarm if he went into any restricted areas. Just then, guard robots arrived in order to stop them. While the siblings worked on disabling the alarm system, Kane held off the guard robots. As they moved deeper into the facility, Kane asked what their target was. Romina explained that they were searching for the original Malice stone, in which the Dracus had copied in order to make all of the others. Kane then asked what they had stolen the night before, to which Romina explained that they had stolen a memory of someone eating food with a serious looking woman. Kane realized that it was his own memory of his dinner with the boss. Romina explained that they had brought the memory to Kudan, who had rewarded them with food. They pressed on into Dr. Y's room, where they found his research notes. Just then, Kane took the notes from them and ordered them to run from the arriving security forces. He also told them to let Kudan know that he was willing to trade the research notes in exchange for his memory. As Kane and the siblings escaped, Dracus agents stormed the laboratory. The regulator sergeant reported that all signs pointed to a Dracus agent being the culprit, based on the number of robots taken out. But as the security system had been reformatted, it would be difficult to find the perpetrator. However, Tirag pointed out that if the culprit was amongst them, they would have been the last one to arrive, meaning that they merely needed to check the arrival time logs. He also added that the perpetrator was likely the same person who had leaked information on the Malice Stones, smirking knowingly at Kane. Just then, Leska arrived and explained that she had been the last to arrive, challenging anyone to accuse her of being the culprit. One of the regulators explained that a key card had disappeared from his room, and that they had assumed that the culprit had used it to disable the security system. They then ordered everyone to remain still while they were searched, but the boss told him that there was no need and swung her sword at Guyu, one of Tirag's accomplices. As Guyu fell, several malice stones fell from his pocket. Tirag was furious that Guyu had foolishly held on to the stones, as he had planned to implicate Kane as the informant leaker as revenge for his not joining his rebellion. Kane immediately moved to search Guyu and used the opportunity to plant the card key on him, which he then revealed to the others after he completed his search. After the regulators took Guyu away for investigation, Tireg met with Ilan and Vyas, who had both agreed to join his uprising, and seethed how Kane had managed to get away once again. Vyas told him that there was no time to worry about Kane, as they themselves were in danger of being eliminated. Vyas added that the boss's actions were likely a warning to deter them. Tireg then asked what had happened to the crow who had dropped the notebook, to which Vyas assured him that they had taken care of him. Author's note: The implication here is that they had asked the crow to steal the notebook, but Kane's interference had resulted in the notebook being dropped, which created a loose end for them. Dylan protested that the boss was still likely to kill them, even without evidence, but Tireg then revealed that he had seen a choker around her neck as she had swung her sword at Guyu, meaning that she was a prisoner of the Dracus as much as they were. Back in her suite, Leska told the regulator not to report the incident to upper management, even as the regulator protested that there was no way to resolve the matter until Dr. Y returned a few days later to restore the security system. He told her that their priority should be to discard the experiment subject and move on to the next phase, but Leska merely ordered him to report that the project was proceeding smoothly. Sometime later, Kane arrived at Amos's shop in order to ask her about the chameleon siblings' whereabouts, as well as who Kudan was. Amos told him that the siblings worked for Kudan, who was building up a gang on the west side due to his grudge against the Dracus. Because the fog was so thick on the west side that it made breathing difficult, she told him that the only people who would live there were those who wanted to hide from the Dracus. Kane then found the chameleon siblings outside Kudan's hideout, as they weren't being allowed to enter without the notes that Kane had taken from them. As they attempted to go inside, the guards refused to let a Dracus enter, and so Kane defeated the biters in order to force his way inside. There he found a large board with several notes and photos, including one of a larger black dragon. Just then, Kudan arrived and recognized Kane as the one who had defeated him a year ago. Kane asked what the board was, to which Kudan explained that he had been researching malice over the past years. Kudan told Kane about the ancient god, Satyrus, the devil dragon, whom a cult of Nova called the Black Nova had worshipped in exchange for the power of malice. With their command over malice, the Black Nova had once ruled all of Grandis through fear. However, after the fall of the ancient gods, the Black Nova had lost the power of malice, causing them to be hunted down by the other races of Grandis whom they had once enslaved. The cultists had then begun to the practice of cutting off their horns, tails, and wings in order to prevent themselves as being identified as Black Nova. Kudan also explained that without the Black Nova, malice had disappeared from the world until someone had uncovered it and began to distribute it to the Dracus. Kane asked what Kudan wanted, to which he explained that he wanted to become a dragon, metaphorically speaking, clarifying that he wanted to rule the city and command respect in the same way that the Black Nova and the Dracus did. He then asked Kane for his payment, to which he was irritated when Kane produced research notes rather than the original Malice Stone. However, he asked if there was any information about how to extract memories, as he would need a means of controlling his men once he gained the power of malice. When Kane asked why he would want to use the same techniques as his enemies, Kudan mocked Kane by noting that he was proof that the methodology worked, claiming that it had taken away not only Kane's memories, but even his anger. As Kane raised his weapon in clear anger, Kudan showed him the memory stone containing his memories and threatened to drop it if Kane didn't behave. Just as they prepared to swap the notes for the memory stone, a Dracus sting arrived and ambushed them. Assuming that Kane had double-crossed him, Kudan kidnapped Royce and escaped. Romina begged Kane to save her brother, and Kane reluctantly chased after Kudan by fighting against his guards. However, he discovered that Kudan had already been defeated by the Dracus. The regulator then confirmed that the original was safe, and reported that they would prepare to reset protocol upon return. Suddenly, Tireg arrived and shot the regulator, causing him to drop the memory stone. As it shattered, the memory of Kane's dinner with the boss floated into everyone's minds. In the memory, Leska was explaining her trick to keep order amongst the Dracus by making them believe that they were able to fulfill their contract after a year or so before she would wipe their memories again. A regulator pointed out that it had already been the sixth cycle that she had put the agents through, and asked how many times she intended on repeating it. The boss replied that she would continue until the research was done, but the regulator told her that sooner or later, Kane or one of the others would learn what she had done to them. Leska simply replied that she would wipe their memories again, claiming that they were better off with the Dracus than they would be anywhere else, revealing that she had fabricated memories for all of the Dracus agents. Leska explained that she had done them a favor by giving them a dream to look forward to, which was more than what most people got. At the dinner table, Dr. Y approached Kane to extract his memories into the memory stone, just as Leska wished him a happy birthday. Back in the city, all the Dracus realized that the boss had not only lied about giving them back their memories, but she had also given them flashes of false memories in order to motivate them. Furious, Tireg rallied the rest of the Dracus agents into confronting the boss about her actions. Meanwhile, Romina told Kane that Royce had been severely injured in the Dracus sting and begged Kane to save his life. He took them to Amos, who managed to save Royce from dying. After confirming that Royce would live, Kane set off to regain his memories, but he was stopped by Romina, who begged him to stay, believing that he would get hurt without any malice stones. Amos then revealed that after going through the research notes, she had realized that Kane didn't need a malice stone because he himself was the original template that Kudan was searching for. Kane then recalled how the regulator had said that the original template was safe before being shot, and realized that he had been referring to Kane. He also realized that it was likely the reason why the boss had protected him and fabricated his memories. Suddenly, he had a moment of clarity, with the memory that he had recalled of himself being hugged by an older girl on the beach, transforming into her hugging him amidst a burning village, surrounded by soldiers. Along with his memory, the original malice within him awoke. As Kane rushed to go after the boss, he felt pure hatred within his chest, though unlike before, it felt measured and focused. As at the Dracus headquarters, the insurrectionists began taking control of the building. As the regulator sergeant called for reinforcements, Tireg told him to surrender and explained that they wanted to overthrow the boss and replace her. Suddenly, a screen flashed and showed that the insurrectionists had seized control of the operations room and placed bounties on both Kane and Luska. As Tireg began to lead Vilas and Ilan to the boss's room, Ilan refused and claimed that Tireg only cared about being on top. Tireg told her that she could leave, but that her choker would stay on her for the rest of her life. After Ilan left, Tireg told Vias to become the new leader, as he was satisfied with merely being the muscle. Soon after they left, Kane arrived at the lobby, where the regulator sergeant advised him to retreat before the Dracus learned that he was there. Just then, several Dracus appeared and attempted to capture him for his bounty. Kane defeated them all and asked where the boss was. The sergeant told him that she was on the top floor, though he warned that both her forces and Tireg's insurrectionists would be after him. On his way up, he ran into Ilan, who told him that she had quit because she had learned that Tireg was planning to continue holding onto their memories in order to hold them hostage. She told him that all she wanted was to recover her memories and remove her choker. She then showed him a regulator key card and explained that she was too weak to make it to the medical office where her memories were, and so she proposed on an alliance with Kane so that they could both get their memories back. After fighting their way through the hall, they discovered that the door to the office was already open. Ilan recovered her memories, but Kane only found a note from the boss that said, "If you want your memories back, come to me." As Kane rushed to the top floor, the boss held off the insurrectionists and managed to defeat Vias as well. Tireg then approached Leska and asked why she was on the roof. After she told him that she was waiting for someone, Tireg realized that she was waiting for Kane and concluded that he was the original template. He told her that she had gone soft on Cain, as she had continued allowing him to break countless rules, even when she had killed many others for far less. Just then, reinforcements arrived to capture Luska, who easily defeated them, and Tireg. Cain then arrived on the rooftop, and Luska led him into her suite. Though Cain fought as hard as he could, Leska easily managed to subdue him. However, she soon collapsed, and Cain realized that not only had she been severely injured since their rooftop fight, but she had still managed to defeat both him and the insurrectionists in her weakened state. As he took back his memory stone, Leska asked him what he would do once he got his memories, to which Cain told her that he would go after the girl in his memories. She warned him that his memories were horrifying, and that even he wouldn't know how to deal with them. However, Cain replied that they were nevertheless still his to remember. As his memories flooded back, he recognized the girl as his sister, and realized that the hairpin that she wore was the same one that the boss wore, meaning that Luska was actually his sister. Horrified, he asked Luska why she had enslaved him and the other Dracus. She explained that it was the only way they could have lived. Cain then recalled the memory of themselves in the burning village, surrounded by soldiers. In his memory, Luska had begged the soldiers that they would do anything in order to be spared, to which a man with long, shaggy hair had given them two chokers. Author's note: this man is actually Dr. Y, and the implication is that he enslaved Luska and Cain into working for the Dracus, likely to gain the power of malice inside the siblings. As Cain hugged his sister in the suite, she told him to live freely with her dying breath, having been fatally wounded in the battle against Tireg's forces. As she passed away, both their chokers fell off. Cain then made his way back to Amos, where he told her that he was planning on traveling the world in order to give context to his memories, which would hopefully help him regain the rest that were still foggy. He asked the chameleon siblings what they had planned to do, to which they explained that they wanted to stay with Amos. Amos added that with the money that Cain had given them, they wouldn't need to steal again. He then begged to ask one more request of Amos, but she anticipated his question and explained that she had already convinced the community council to lay Luska to rest. With that, Cain took a boat to leave Tulin City and headed towards the nearby refugee camp. Author's note: the main city of Savage Terminal is revealed to be a refugee camp created by people who left Tulin City. Meanwhile, back at the hideout, a regulator and Dr. Y approached Luska's corpse. The regulator asked if the doctor's plan would work, to which he responded that it was already confirmed that malice and memories could be extracted, meaning that it was possible for death to be extracted as well. And so he used his power to extract death out of Luska, thus bringing her back to life. Author's note: Dr. Y is highly likely to be an apostle of Jaren Darmor, especially given this seemingly OP power to extract death. Bringing someone back to life seems like something that Darmor would be able to do as the transcendent of life, and so it might be that he gave Dr. Y the power to extract abstract concepts like death or memories. Dr. Y's power to resurrect the dead seems to be a lot stronger than Hilla's abilities, whereas Hilla could only summon skeletons and spirits, even in her strongest form as Varys Hilla. Dr. Y can restore someone to perfect condition in their original bodies. Cain soon arrived at Savage Terminal, and following Amos's instructions, he started searching for Coney. Soon after, he encountered a group of market hoodlums holding Coney hostage, as they had learned that Cain would be arriving after intercepting Amos's letter to Coney. Cain managed to defeat all the hoodlums just as Cadena arrived to rescue Coney. Cain immediately felt a strange sense of kinship with Cadena when he saw her. Author's note: this is likely because they're both Nova who removed their Nova features. Cadena told him that the Shadow Dealer's hideout took him to the Shadow Dealer's hideout and introduced him to Gen. who recognized Cain as the Master Dracus, clarifying that by Master, he meant that Cain was the last of the Dracus. And though Cain wondered whether he ought to get involved in the matter, he explained that he had promised Amos that he would help Cain. Cain told him that he was looking to travel, and so Gen recommended that he go to Pantheon and use the interdimensional portal in order to reach Maple World. He also recommended that Cain pick a new name in order to lie low. He also suggested that Cain try to change his speaking style in order to better hide his identity. Author's note: Gen suggests that we switch our name from Cain to our IGN, although future quests reveal that he's really the only one who tries to get his name to stick, as virtually everyone else keeps calling us Cain. Cain then traveled to Pantheon, where the border guards halted him. Veldar and Cartalion greeted him and asked him for his purpose. Cain refrained from mentioning that he was a Black Nova, though he was intrigued to be in the homeland of his ancestors. He explained that he wanted to use the interdimensional portal, and so they escorted him to the Great Temple. Cain found himself to be socially awkward, as he was only used to dealing with assassins and criminals. Just then, Fennel approached him, and having felt the malice inside him, recognized him as the descendant of the Black Nova and a disciple of the corrupted dragon. Cain asked if she was going to tell the guards, but Fennel explained that she had no reason to, as she had been waiting for him ever since an oracle had foretold his arrival. She told him that at first she hadn't been able to believe that there were any more Black Nova left after the Purge. However, she reassured him that their clan's blood feud had gone away with the ancient gods, and told him that she believed that no one should have to pay for the actions of their ancestors. She then offered to answer any question that he had. When Cain asked about the Black Nova, she told him that she had only read one line in an ancient text that mentioned a Nova clan mesmerized by Satyrus, the devil dragon, and his power of malice, which described malice as the ruthlessness to stop at nothing for one's chosen goals. She supposed that malice existed for a reason, as did all things. In regard to Maple World, she told him that it was a land of adventure, where its people were fighting against their corrupted transcendent of light, the Black Mage. With no other questions, Cain made his way to Maple World and sought out Athena Pierce, at Fennel's recommendation, who suggested that he help out others around the Maple World. Author's note: same deal as always, she tells you to complete the 4 theme dungeons from level 40 or from level 30 to 60. Sometime after Cain began his adventures in Maple World, he was contacted by Romina, who told him that Amos wanted to speak with him. Cain returned to Tulin City and visited Amos, who caught him up with the situations in the city. She explained that the community council had taken over security and that there hadn't been any major incidents because of them. She also told him that the council had sent people to recover Leska's body, but that they had discovered that it was missing. Amos explained that she had looked into the matter personally and was able to corroborate their findings. Cain wondered whether the company's upper management had managed to get to her body first. Amos then gave Cain a note that the council had found in the building. Cain opened the note and found that it was from Ilyn, who had written to Cain that she knew how to get back to his hometown and asked him to meet her on the rooftop of the Dracus headquarters. Cain went to meet Ilyn, who noticed that Cain's choker had come off. She told him that she couldn't remove hers, meaning that she couldn't return to her hometown, even though she had fully regained her memories, as she feared that the company would send the Dracus to attack it. She then revealed to Cain that he had written her a note before he had initially lost his memories for the first time. Cain read the note and found that his past self had written coordinates. Ilyn told him that she had looked up the coordinates and had discovered that it was some out-of-the-way place by the moons of Grandis, meaning that he would need a ship to fly there. Ilyn told him that in exchange for the coordinates, she wanted an introduction to the shadow dealers, whom she hoped could remove her joker. Cain agreed to put in a good word for her and suggested that she find something valuable to sell them. She assured him that she had a plethora of information for sale. After leaving, Kane felt a sense of relief that he could go back to his home. However, he recalled the memory of his sister pleading for their lives, and suddenly, fierce anger, infinite hatred, and murderous intent flooded his body, causing the malice within him to strengthen. Author's note: Kane has one of the weakest class stories in my opinion. The most interesting part about his story isn't even him, it's Dr. Y and his powers to extract abstract concepts like memories or death. Kane is marketed as an edgy hitman, and they tell us frequently in the dialogue about how much anger and hatred he feels. But there's never any moment when we actually get to see this for ourselves. What gets pushed across instead is that he's emotionally numb and has a soft spot for kids, making his edgy aesthetic just for show. It's like they forgot to show, not tell, in one of the most basic rules. It's one of the most basic rules for storytelling. For me, Kane had less of a personality than explorers, Cygnus Knights, and resistance classes, which is ironic because they're the ones who are supposed to be the generic classes. Luska was more of a compelling protagonist for me because of her struggle in keeping Kane safe while also being enslaved by Dr. Y. Not to mention that her character design and fighting style in the animated video showing her fight with Kane was really cool and one of my favorite animated cutscenes in the game.